Good morning everyone. Today we are going to start the somatosensory system in the neurophysiology. So sensory division of human nervous system is concerned with collection of information about the outside world and changes occurring within the body itself. So in the starting general sensory mechanism, in today's class we will see what are the sensory receptors and how the information is being encoded or sensory coding. So these things we will see in today's class. So the objectives for today's class are general introduction, that is how the sensory mechanism is going to take place and what is the definition and classification of the receptors present in the human body and mechanism of receptor potential and the properties of receptors, and lastly how the information is being encoded in the central nervous system, that is sensory encoding. In the introduction, receptors are the biological transducers which convert various forms of energy into action potential in the nerve fibers. So these are the transducers, that is convert from one form to other form. Various forms of energy are being converted into action potential in the nerve fibers. So the sensory receptors are specialized nerve endings or specialized cells which are more sensitive to specific type of stimulus, and they are able to convert stimulus energy into electrical energy which is called as receptor potential, and they can generate action potential in the nerve connected. Okay, so the nerve which is connected to those receptors can generate action potential because of the receptor potential produced by the receptors. So they are specialized nerve endings or specialized cells which are more sensitive to specific type of stimulus. Suppose the stimulus may be touch, pressure, pain. So various types of stimulations are present. So they are each type of receptor is specific to specific type of stimulus. So which will produce a receptor potential, and that will again produce action potential in the nerve connected. And if we see some brief definitions of the words which we are going to see or use in this general introduction are sensation. So what is sensation? It is a conscious or subconscious awareness of changes in the external or internal environment. And perception is the conscious awareness and interpretation of sensations and is primarily a function of the cerebral cortex. And stimulus is the energy that impinges upon and activates a sensory receptor. Sensory receptors are the cells or region of cells that respond to specific stimuli and perform sensory transduction. Sensory transduction is the process by which a stimulus of any form is transformed into electrical response. Okay, so sensation is a subconscious or conscious awareness of changes in the external or internal environment, and perception is able to feel that sensation. Conscious awareness and interpretation, we need to interpret whether it may be the touch or pain or pressure, like that the interpretation, and it is a primary function of cerebral cortex. And stimulus is various forms of energy that impinges upon and activates a sensory receptor. And transduction is the process by which a stimulus of any form is transformed into electrical response. And in this picture you can see the various classification of receptors. So in this we are showing the exteroreceptors, proprioceptors and interoreceptors. So extero means cutaneous sensations which arise from the surface of the body. So in general we have again mechanoreceptors, superficial and deep, and thermoreceptors and nociceptors. So these are the cutaneous sensations. And in special we have photoreceptors, mechanoreceptors in the cochlea, chemoreceptors. And proprioceptors are the sensations which arise from the muscles, tendons and joints. These are again general. We have mechanoreceptors, Golgi tendon, organ, muscle, spindle and joint capsule. And in special category we have mechanoreceptors, that is hair cells in the otolith organs and semicircular canals. And interoreceptors which arise from the viscera. mechanoreceptors, that is baroreceptors, and chemo, gluco and osmoreceptors. So this is one type of classification of receptors. And there are structurally three types of receptors are present. One type are having bare nerve endings, that is the nerve endings that terminate in the periphery as bare unmyelinated endings. Okay, they do not have myelination, so that's why they are called bare nerve endings. And capsulated nerve endings, it is in the form of specialized capsulated structures, that is example connective tissue lamellae. And sense organs, these are specialized cells located at the end of afferent nerve. So three types of receptors are present structurally. If we see the structure of the receptor, we can classify them into bare nerve endings, capsulated, and then sense organs. And the classifications, there are three types of classifications present depending upon the source of stimulus, depending upon the type of stimulus, and clinical or anatomical classification of receptors. So the first one is source of stimulus. So we call it as Sherrington's classification. So you remember this name, Sherrington's classification, which will classify the receptors depending upon the source of stimulus. So these are classified into exteroreceptors, enteroreceptors, and telereceptors. Okay, so extero means which receives stimulus from the surface of the body. Entero means which receives stimulus from interior or within the body. And telereceptors means from distance, like visual, cochlea, and olfaction. So again the same thing, extero means which receives stimuli from the surrounding or outside surface of the body. Cutaneous receptors for pain, touch, and temperature. And enteroreceptors are which receive stimuli from within the body. Chemo, baro, proprio, osmoreceptors, and glucoreceptors. Telereceptors are stimuli which received from the distance, visual, cochlear, and olfactory. And depending upon the type of stimulus, we have mechanoreceptors, thermoreceptors, chemoreceptors, nociceptors, electromagnetic receptors from retina. So we will see each one. Mechanoreceptors are those receptors which respond to mechanical stimuli, which include cutaneous receptors in epidermis and dermis for cutaneous tactile sensibility, and cutaneous receptors from deep tissue sensibility, and muscle and joint receptors. Hair cells, example hair cells in the organ of Corti or auditory receptors, and hair cells in the vestibular apparatus or vestibuloreceptors for equilibrium, and baroreceptors of carotid sinus and aortic arch for detecting level of arterial blood pressure. So in the coming classes you will be able to see all these types of receptors. For now time being, just read and try to remember different types of receptors. And thermoreceptors which detect environmental temperature, that is cold and warm receptors. And photoreceptors or electromagnetic receptors are the rods and cones of retina which respond to light stimuli. Chemoreceptors which detect change in the chemical composition of environment in which they are located, like taste receptors, olfactory receptors, and osmoreceptors in the supraoptic nuclei of hypothalamus. Aortic and carotid body receptors which detect level of arterial PO2, PCO2, and pH. Glucoreceptors and chemoreceptors on the surface of medulla for detecting level of blood PCO2, and chemoreceptors in hypothalamus for detecting levels of blood glucose and fatty acids and amino acids. So chemo means the chemical composition of the environment in which they are located. So suppose in the blood there is changes in the levels of glucose, fatty acids, and amino acids, so that will be detected by chemoreceptors present in the hypothalamus. And also if there is changes in the PCO2, PO2, and pH and glucose, so all those they are detected by the chemoreceptors in the, for PCO2 the receptors are present in the medulla, and for PO2, PCO2 again pH, the chemoreceptors present in aortic and carotid bodies, and supraoptic nuclei of hypothalamus. There are osmoreceptors which help in the thirst mechanism. Suppose the body needs water, the person is feeling thirst, then the osmoreceptors will be activated and the mechanism will help in drinking water by the person. So these are the various sensory receptors. The chemical stimulus binds to the receptor protein, and the signal transduction pathway helps in the entry of ions, that is sodium and sodium influx occurs, which changes in the membrane potential, leading to signal to the integrating center. And then mechanoreceptors, the pressure stimulus, when we give the pressure, the receptors are activated, and again through signal transduction pathway there is change in membrane potential and the integrating center gets the information. In the light stimulus also there is change in signal transduction pathway and change in the membrane potential and signal to the integrating center. And one more type of receptors are nociceptors. These are the receptors which respond to extremes of mechanical, thermal and chemical stimuli producing pain. Okay, so extremes of that is, extreme means we can't able to tolerate, that is mechanical form, thermal, high temperature, or chemical change in the chemical stimuli in the body, that is either pH, maybe going to extremes, high acidity or high alkalinity, that is producing pain in the body. So these are the pictures of the receptors. Free nerve endings, in the first one you can see, and then the non-capsulated tactile corpuscle and encapsulated tactile corpuscle, lamellar corpuscle and neurotendinous spindle. In coming to the third type of classification, clinical or anatomical classification of receptors. So we have three categories here: superficial, deep and visceral. Superficial are those which are present in the skin and mucous membrane, and deep receptors are present in the muscles, tendons, joint and subcutaneous tissue. And visceral receptors are which are present in visceral organs. So here you can see the various types of receptors. So Merkel's disc. So first, that is skin, epidermis, dermis and hypodermis. So superficial receptors are present underneath the epidermis, that is Meissner's corpuscles. And then here Merkel's disc. So these are the touch receptors, free nerve endings, these are for pain. And little deeper if you go, we have Pacinian corpuscle and Ruffney's nerve endings. And then again this is one more picture for light touch, Meissner's corpuscle and Merkel's corpuscles for touch. And C is the free nerve endings which are in grey color, and D green color one is Pacinian corpuscle or lamellated corpuscle, and E, which is for warm, it is Ruffney's corpuscle. And coming to the sensory transduction, receptors function like a transducer. Transducer is a device which converts one form of energy into another. So receptors are often defined as biological transducers which convert various forms of energy in the environment into action potentials in the nerve fiber. Okay, so this is the phenomenon of conversion of environmental signals into neural signals. So the steps of sensory transduction are arrival of stimulus, production of generator or receptor potential, and production of action potential in the sensory nerve. So if we see the steps or how the information is being changed from one form of energy into another form, first the stimulus should be there, and the receptors are always present on the surface in the body. So when stimulus arrives the receptor, that is first step. And second step, there will be changes taking place in the receptor by means of signal transduction pathway and changes in the membrane potential. there will be production of generator or receptor potential. And finally, the nerve which is attached to the receptor, in that nerve there will be production of action potential. So the arrival of stimulus. So before the production of receptor potential, in the arrival of stimulus, there will be various forms of stimuli like mechanical, light or electromagnetic wave, chemical, cold or warm temperature, and sound energy. So various forms of stimuli are present which will be coming and stimulating the receptor. Next, when a stimulus excites the receptor, it changes the potential across the membrane of receptors. So this change in potential is called receptor or generator potential. So the mechanism for this development of receptor potential is the change in membrane potential is caused by change in permeability of membrane by unmyelinated terminals of sodium. So the resultant influx of sodium causes the development of generator or receptor potential. So this sodium influx produces the depolarization of receptor membrane. Okay, so depolarization of receptor by sodium influx, and the exception for this receptor mechanism is only one thing, that is in photoreceptors, where the light causes hyperpolarization. Okay, so the initial response of receptor cell to stimulus consisting of a change in voltage across the receptor membrane potential to the stimulus strength. The intensity of receptor potential determines the frequency of action potentials traveling to the nervous system. So the intensity of receptor potential, how much receptor potential is produced, that determines the frequency of action potential traveling to this nervous system. So in this picture you can observe, so first there is resting membrane potential, and when the sodium influx causes the membrane potential to reach the threshold value, then there is production of action potentials. So that is also called receptor potential. And the experiment done for detecting this receptor potential is by taking the Pacinian corpuscle as example. So for the purpose of demonstration, receptor potential can be recorded from the Pacinian corpuscles because they are large in size and easily detected from the mesentery of experimental animals, and its anatomical configuration allows study with microelectrodes. So Pacinian corpuscles are one of the four major types of mechanoreceptors. They are nerve endings in the skin responsible for sensitivity to pain and pressure. And the Pacinian corpuscles was named after its discoverer, Italian anatomist Filippo Pacini. Okay, so why we are selecting the Pacinian corpuscles means they are large sized and can be easily detected from the mesentery of experimental animals, and its anatomical configuration allows study with microelectrodes. So if we see the structure of Pacinian corpuscle, these are larger and fewer in number than both Merkel's and Meissner corpuscles, and it is oval shaped, approximately 1 millimeter in length. It has 20 to 60 concentric lamellae separated by gelatinous material. The lamellae are very thin, flat and modified Schwann cells. So these lamellae are nothing but modified Schwann cells. In the center of the corpuscle is the inner bulb, a fluid-filled cavity with a single afferent unmyelinated nerve ending. Okay, so in the picture you can see in the center of the corpuscle it is the inner bulb, which is a fluid-filled cavity with single afferent unmyelinated nerve ending. So in this picture we can see the mechanism of detection or finding the receptor potential. So we are using cathode ray oscilloscope. The electrodes of the cathode ray oscilloscope are placed on the nerve fiber, one on the unmyelinated ending and other on the second node of Ranvier. So these are the this is the edge part, left side. So this is unmyelinated nerve ending, and these are the blue colored ones are there, no? So from this myelination starts. So first node of Ranvier and second node of Ranvier. So first one electrode is placed on the unmyelinated nerve ending and second electrode is placed on the second node of Ranvier. So when mild pressure is applied on the corpuscle and mild non-propagated depolarizing potential called receptor potential can be recorded. So the area deformed by compression. So that is the first step. So first, when pressure is applied, the area will be deformed. From that, the sodium influx occurs and there will be change in membrane permeability and the ion channels will get opened. Sodium ions will diffuse into the fiber, increasing the positivity inside the fiber and then producing the receptor potential. And it induces a local current circuit of current flow which spread along the nerve fiber. At node of Ranvier, local current flow depolarizes and sets off typical action potential along the fiber to central nervous system. And the properties of receptor potential. So receptor potential is not an action potential. It is similar to excitatory postsynaptic potential in the synapse, end plate potential in a neuromuscular junction and electrotonic potential in a nerve fiber. Okay, so it is similar to excitatory postsynaptic potential in a synapse. So in the previous class, synapse we have seen the excitatory and inhibitory synaptic potentials and the end plate potential. So in my neuromuscular junction class, I have explained you what is end plate potential. So the potential produced at the postsynaptic membrane, that is otherwise called this membrane of the skeletal muscle, sarcolemma. So that is end plate potential and electrotonic potential in a nerve fiber. So the important properties of receptor potential are graded response. So receptor potential is a graded. So grading means, so one by one we will grade, starting from lower category to higher category, like we have grading in your 10th class intermediate. So like that, graded response. So its amplitude increases with increasing velocity of stimulus application and increasing strength of stimulus. So the amplitude of the receptor potential increases with increasing velocity of stimulus and also increasing strength of the stimulus. So unlike action potential, it does not obey all or none law. And summation. Receptor potential from two stimuli can be added if the second stimulus arrives before the receptor potential developed due to first stimulus. Thus, receptor potential can be added together unlike the action potential. So, we cannot add action potential. But receptor potentials produced from two stimuli can be added. When can be added? If the second stimulus arrives before the receptor potential due to first stimulus is over. Okay, so this point is very important. So the summation takes place only when second stimulus arrives before the receptor potential produced by first stimulus is over. Then only summation can take place. And refractory period is not there in the development of receptor potential, while action potential has a refractory period of 1 millisecond. And the receptor potential cannot be propagated because it's a local response, whereas action potential can be conducted to either sides of the from this point of or from the site of production of action potential, it can be conducted to either sides of the nerve fiber, and the duration of receptor potential is greater than the action potential. And coming to the properties of receptors. So the first one is production of generator potential or receptor potential, but not action potential. And the second one is specificity, and then graded response, and then perception and discrimination of intensity, Miller's law of specific nerve energy, law of projection and adaptation of receptors. So these properties of receptors is very important. So in today's class we have seen the classification and now the properties. So this may come as essay question. So pay attention and take notes, and also read from your textbooks. Prepare notes on your own. So first one is the specificity of response. So this is called Miller's law. Specificity of response or Miller's law refers to the response given by a particular type of receptor to a specific sensation. So the response given by a particular type of receptor to a specific sensation. So for example, pain receptors give response only to pain sensation. So that is the specificity of response, which is otherwise called Muller's law. And similarly, temperature receptors give response only to temperature sensation, and the receptors for that are Ruffness receptors. In addition, each type of sensation depends upon the part of brain in which its fibers terminate. Okay, so the nerve fibers from the receptors will travel through the spinal cord and then the centers and finally reach the cortex, somatosensory cortex. So each type of sensation depends upon the part of brain in which its fibers terminate. Suppose in the somatosensory cortex we have areas 1, 2, 3. So in which part of cortex the nerve fibers have terminated. So depending on that, the type of sensation also depends. Specificity of response is also called Muller's doctrine of specific nerve energies. And here you need to know about one point, that is adequate stimulus. So adequate stimulus for rods and cones of retina is light. So for specific type of receptors, the adequate stimulus. So suppose if you give sound stimulus, so the rods and cones do not respond to sound stimulus, they respond only to light stimulus. So that is adequate stimulus. Therefore, retina can detect the presence of single photon of light. Pressure on the eyeball can also stimulate retinal receptors, but threshold of these receptors to pressure is much higher than the threshold of pressure receptors to skin. So adequate stimulus for roughness receptors is warm water at low intensity producing a specific receptor sensation. And next property of receptors is adaptation. When a receptor is continuously stimulated with same strength of stimulus, after some time the receptor stops sending impulse through the afferent nerve. So this property is called adaptation. Depending upon this property, the receptor has two types, phasic receptor and tonic receptor. Phasic receptors are the ones which adapt rapidly to the touch and pressure receptors. So touch and pressure receptors are phasic receptors because they adapt rapidly, and tonic receptors are pain and temperature which adapt slowly. So what is adaptation? If the receptor is continuously stimulated with same strength, after some time the receptor stops sending impulse through the afferent nerve. So for example, for understanding purpose, touch sensation. So when we wear clothes, so immediately first touch we feel it, that is we have worn our clothes like socks or anything that touches our body, we will feel the first time sensation. But as the stimulus, as clothes are present throughout the day, that stimulation is stopped. That means the receptor stops sending impulses, and that is the touch sensation by clothes is being adapted by the body. So that is called adaptation. So receptors adapt either partially or completely to any constant stimulus after a period of time. That is, when a continuous sensory stimulus is applied, the receptor responds at a high impulse rate at first and then at a progressively slower rate until finally the rate of action potential decreases to very few or often to none at all. So this is the explanation of which I have told you already. So when a continuous stimulus is applied, the receptor responds at a high impulse rate at first, but then progressively slower rate. The response slowly decreases until final rate of action potential decreases to very few or none at all. And then one more property, law of projection. Sensation is localized at the site where receptor is located even when the stimulus is applied at any point on the sensory pathway. Okay, so the sensory pathway, for each and every sensation there is pathway. For touch sensation, pain sensation and pressure sensations, so there will be pathways, so which will be dealt to you in next coming classes. So we call them as ascending tracks. So at any site, whether the stimulus is applied at any point on the sensory pathway, the sensation will be localized at the site where the receptor is located. Okay, So that is law of projection. So projection means from one point the sensation is projected to the site of location of receptor. And the next property is spatial or temporal summation. Summation of stimuli applied simultaneously on the receptor or of stimuli applied repeatedly at the same site. So the stimuli may be applied simultaneously on the receptor or applied repeatedly at the same site. So in the first picture you can see left side, stimulus 1 small and stimulus 2 large. So repeatedly applying the stimulus will produce graded response, that is receptor potential is produced. And the temporal summation is the sites we have the number of times we are continuously stimulating the receptor, so that will produce one wave with slowly increasing amplitude. Whereas in spatial summation, after completing of one stimulus we are giving the second stimulus. So stimulus 1 and 2 will combinedly produce the increased amplitudes 1 plus 2. So in the right side of picture see, that is the spatial. In spaces, after one response is completed we are giving the second stimulus, so that is producing spatial summation. Temporal means at one point only we are continuously repeatedly stimulating. So repeated stimulation will produce temporal summation. So now if we see the components of sensation or the sensory system, we have 4 steps. First, the stimulation, application of stimulus, which must be strong enough to induce action potential in sensory neuron. And the sensors most sensitive to one particular stimulus modality, that is called adequate stimulus. And transduction is induction of action potential, and stimulation of sensor induces graded potentials in the sensors. Generator potentials or receptors potential are produced if strong enough, that will cause depolarization leading to action potential. And conduction, that is relay of information through a sensory pathway to specific region of central nervous system. So usually 3 neurons are involved in the sensory pathway. First order, that is from stimulation point to CNS, and second order from entry into the CNS to thalamus, and third order, that is from thalamus to the perception site, and finally perception site is cortex. Perception is detection of environmental change by CNS. Evaluation of nature of change and magnitude. And the last topic is sensory encoding. So the sensory receptors transduce all forms of stimuli into a common type of neural signal, that is action potential, carried by the peripheral nerves and sensory tracts in the spinal cord and brain stem to the cortex. So all stimuli are ultimately converted to action potentials in the primary afferent neurons. So these receptors encode 3 types of information. So one is stimulus quality, and then stimulus location, and stimulus intensity. So how does the brain differentiate between action potentials generated from touch receptor and pain receptors and interpret the sensation accordingly? So that is the question, and the answer for that question is sensory encoding. So the intensity, location and quality of stimulus are encoded. So first one is stimulus quality. So here comes the main important point, that is labeled line mechanism. So first we will see action potentials are similar in all nerves. So why stimulation of touch receptor causes sensation of touch and not of warmth, and stimulation of photoreceptors cause sensation of light and not of hearing? So for the differentiation we need to see labeled line mechanism. It is the mechanism in which stimulus quality is encoded by particular neural pathway that is stimulated. So the basic sensory modalities are encoded by this mechanism. Each fiber or collection of neurons linked by related sensory fibers is referred as labeled line. So for example, action potentials traveling along the fibers and neurons that comprise the anterolateral system or spinothalamic tract are perceived as pain, whereas action potentials carried over the dorsal column medial lemniscal system are distinguished as touch or pressure sensations. So the specificity of the sensory pathway from receptors to cortex has been called Miller's doctrine of specific nerve energies, which I already told you in the previous slides. And the next one is location of stimulus. So depending on the location, the information is being encoded. So the where the stimulus is being applied, that is very important. So in this location, you need to know the terms called sensory unit and receptive field. So sensory unit is a single afferent neuron with all its receptor endings, and receptive field is the area of body that when stimulated leads to activity in a particular afferent neuron. Okay, so sensory unit is a single afferent neuron with all its receptor endings, and receptive field is the area of body that when stimulated leads to activity in a particular afferent neuron. So the stimulus location is recognized accurately due to point-to-point representation of body in the somatosensory cortex. So therefore, when sensory fibers are experimentally stimulated anywhere in their course to the cortex, the conscious sensation produced is referred to the location of receptor. So that is called the law of projection. Acuity is the precision of stimulus localization or ability to distinguish fine details. So this depends again on the size of receptive field. Small field gives better acuity, and innervation density. So higher the density of receptors, it gives better acuity. So acuity means localization, precision, how precisely we can localize the sensation produced in the body. And convergence along the central nervous pathways or sensory pathways. So less convergence gives better acuity. Convergence means all different types of nerve fibers converging on a one pathway. So if there is more convergence, more types of sensation we need to localize. So if there is less convergence, we can tell accurately the stimulus localization. And lateral or surround inhibition increases the acuity. So lateral inhibition means the surrounding sensations coming from the other side areas from the point of stimulus. So if those sensations are being inhibited, so we can exactly point out the location of stimulus. So information from neuron A indicates the stimulus location more precisely than does from the neuron B, because A's receptive field is smaller. So if there is a smaller receptive field, there will be accurately determination of location occurs. So generally receptive fields of neighboring neurons overlap and interdigitate with areas supplied by others. So because of that overlapping, so we need to have one property called lateral inhibition. So lateral inhibition is a phenomenon by which stronger inputs are enhanced and weaker inputs of adjacent sensory units are simultaneously inhibited. Okay, so informations from sensory neurons whose receptors are at the peripheral edge of the stimulus is inhibited compared to information from sensory neurons at the center of the stimulus. Okay, so in this picture you can see the area of sensation. The center point is area of excitation, so that is kept, and the edges, peripheral edges, the information from that peripheral edges will be inhibited. So that is lateral inhibition. So this is one more picture showing the center point of excitation and the mechanism of inhibition from the peripheral edges. So action potential from the peripheral edges of neurons, that will be inhibited. Okay, so red colored one here in the circle area, you can see the inhibition. Minus means inhibition, plus means stimulation. So again, law of projection is nothing but the at any point of stimulus, if we stimulate, the information is being referred to the stimulus location. So each receptor or group of same receptor is connected through a separate pathway to a certain point in the cerebral cortex. Stimulation of this point in cerebral cortex or anywhere in the pathway project the sensation to the location of receptor. So the example for this law of projection is amputation of limb. So phantom limb sensation. Sometimes the patient complains of intense pain in the absent limb. So here you can see the blue colored hand. So that is hand is not present, but the person is able to feel sensation from the part which is not present in his body or absent limb. So that is called phantom limb sensation. These sensations are produced due to irritation of damaged nociceptive or proprioceptive efferents at the stump of the amputated limb. So this is example for law of projection. And next last one is intensity of stimulus. When a stimulus is applied, receptors discharge depending on the strength of stimulus. So here comes the law called Weber-Fechner law. So the magnitude of sensation felt is proportional to the log of intensity of stimulus. Okay, so the brain interprets different intensities of sensations by frequency of action potentials generated in the sensory fibers and number of recruitment of sensory units. So brain interprets different intensities, whether the touch is light or heavy and pain is mild or severe. Like that, the intensity is differentiated depending on the frequency of action potentials and also number of recruitment of sensory units. So what is a sensory unit? So single afferent nerve with its nerve endings. Okay, so the Weber-Fechner law is magnitude of sensation felt directly proportional to the log of intensity of stimulus, and it is otherwise stated as more accurately, the power law describes more accurately this relation. So R is the sensation felt and S is the intensity of stimulus and K and A are the constants. So R is equal to K log S plus C. So this is not superscript there, so it is a mistake. So we can simply put it as K log S plus C. So sensation felt is determined by the log of intensity of stimulus. So that is nothing but the Weber-Fechner law. So recruitment of sensory units is when the single afferent neuron with all its receptor endings makes a sensory unit. So when the strength of stimulus is increased, it spreads over a large area, activating more and more receptors in the neighboring area, and thus more and more sensory units are recruited. So this is same as the recruitment of motor units, which I have told you in the properties of motor unit class. So this increase in recruitment of sensory units is interpreted as increase in intensity of stimulus. So we have seen the location, stimulus location and stimulus quality and the stimulus intensity. So depending on these three mechanisms or these three steps, the information is being encoded to the central nervous system so that the cortex or the brain tells us whether the sensation felt is touch, pain or pressure. So in today's class, finally, we have seen the introduction to somatosensory system. So we have seen various terminologies like sensation, perception, transduction, encoding, and then we have seen the receptors classification and their properties and how the receptor potential is being recorded from the Pacinian corpuscle, and then we have seen the properties of receptor potential. So lastly we have seen the stimulus sensory encoding. Okay, in the sensory encoding we have stimulus location, quality and then intensity. So from this encoding it may come as short question or otherwise this label line mechanism or the Weber-Fechner law or the Miller's law of specific nerve energies. So those may come as very short 3-mark questions or MCQs. So in today's class we have very important, for essay it may come, for short note it may come, and very short, and also MCQs. So this class is very important. Make notes on your own and read from the textbook. You can read it twice and remember carefully. So that's all. Thank you all.